Experiencing my first love all over again was the best thing that could have ever happened to me at 83 years old. And here is the secret as to why this love never died. My name is Arthur, and I bet you have found yourself in the dead of night thinking about that one person from your past, the one that time took away, but who left you with that cruel, quiet doubt. What if? You know, it is very common. Most people try to silence that voice. They fill their routines, they chase their careers, they swallow the longing and simply move forward, blindly believing that certain doors are locked forever. And look, I understand you perfectly, because I did exactly that. For over 6 decades, I carried the absolute certainty that my great love story with Eleanor had come to a final end when we were just 18. But life, well, life has a wonderful sense of humor and a timing that we simply cannot control. Today, I am not just here to tell you a beautiful story about reuniting. I am here to save you from decades of anguish. I want to give you the advice I wish I had heard when I was younger, and prepare you to understand why true love never ends. It just rests. You see, to understand how a 65-year-old love wakes up again, we need to look back to where it all began, back in the 1950s. Eleanor and I were 18. It was that kind of pure electric love that consumes everything. But there is a tragic flaw in youth. Young people are terribly arrogant when it comes to time. They believe, with an almost blind certainty, that they will have endless opportunities to fix things. People at that age think that if they let something valuable slip through their fingers, destiny will simply place an identical passion right around the corner. Society, especially back then, convinced individuals that duty, stability, and family expectations were the only safe paths, and that was exactly the trap we fell into. Eleanor's family had to move across the country, and I was pressured to stay and assume my local responsibilities. We were swallowed up by what they called adulthood. We cried, of course, and we promised to write every week. But distance and obligations ran over everything. Some letters got lost. Others took too long to arrive, until the gap between one letter and the next kept getting wider and wider. You probably understand what that is like, don't you? That exact moment when you let the practicality of life suffocate what your heart truly wants. We didn't fight. There was no grand drama or betrayal. We were just victims of that foolish belief that if it is meant to be, it will be, without making the effort required to make it happen. And suddenly, silence became our new normal. And do you know what happens after silence completely settles in? Life simply goes on. Many people tend to believe that when you lose a love that intense, a person is doomed to a life of bitterness. Fiction, movies, they love to sell the idea of the tragic hero, suffering in the shadows for decades, refusing to ever love again. But reality is far more generous than that. I did not spend my life mourning what I had lost. I chose to live. I met a wonderful woman. I got married. We built a home full of laughter, dogs, and children running through the yard. I was a genuinely happy man. I loved my wife with all my heart and honored our marriage until the day she passed away. There was no dark void in my life, you see. And right here, there is a very dangerous myth that society teaches us. They tell us that we only have one soulmate in the entire world, and that if you lose that person, your destiny is to settle for the leftovers of love. That is a terrible lie. The human heart is not a glass jar that shatters and cannot be fixed. It is a muscle. I loved Eleanor with the reckless passion of an 18-year-old boy. But I loved my wife with the devotion and depth of a grown man. One love did not cancel out the other. Loving my wife did not mean that Eleanor was not important. and remembering Eleanor did not diminish the beautiful life I built during those years. You need to understand that it is perfectly possible to keep a person in a safe at the bottom of your soul and still hand the keys to your house to someone else who makes you genuinely happy. Because of this, I need you to listen to me carefully. If you are out there right now watching this video with a broken heart, feeling like your world has ended because someone important is gone, please do not put your life on hold. True love will never demand that you paralyze your own story. It does not ask you to be miserable while waiting for a miracle. However, the human heart is a very curious place. It holds secret drawers that we ourselves forget we locked. And it was only many years later, when I was already an 83-year-old widower living a quiet routine, that one of those drawers was opened. And this time, quite literally. It was on an ordinary Sunday afternoon. My granddaughter was helping me organize the attic, going through boxes I hadn't opened in decades. Suddenly, she pulled out an old book, and from inside it slipped a yellowed envelope. It was a letter of mine, in my own handwriting from 1959, addressed to Eleanor. A letter that for some reason time erased from my memory, I never actually sent. Reading those words was like being thrown back in time. The longing, which had been quiet and asleep, woke up all at once. My granddaughter, with that magical ease young people have with the internet, decided to look for her. And in less than 2 hours, we had a phone number. I called, and when I heard her voice on the other end of the line, my God, we went right back to being those two teenagers in the blink of an eye, stuttering from nervousness. We set up a coffee date for the very next day. When our eyes met in that coffee shop, 65 years of distance simply evaporated. I held her hand. I looked at those wrinkles that told the story of an entire lifetime I did not witness, and I cried. She was also a widow. We had both lived beautiful stories with our families, but right there, in that moment, our unfinished chapter was demanding to be written. You know, nowadays, people live in such a rush. They swipe on phone screens searching for the perfect partner. They get frustrated at the first obstacle and discard relationships as if they were defective products. The modern world has convinced everyone that love needs to be immediate, explosive, and flawless to be real. But here is the great secret that life has taught me, and that I want you to hold on to dearly. The love that never dies has nothing to do with urgency. It is made of gratitude and extreme patience. It is silent and resilient. True love does not demand that you stop breathing or suffer eternally if you are forced to part ways. It simply retreats, sits quietly in a little corner of your chest, and waits. It survives distance, it survives other stories, and incredibly, it survives old age. So, if you are listening to me right now, and you think your time for love has already passed, whether you are 40, 60, or 80 years old, please get that idea out of your head. The clock only stops when our heart stops beating. Keep the door open, forgive your past, and continue living your life beautifully. Because sometimes, love just needs a few decades to mature before finally coming back home.